Yeah, you are welcome to my broadcast, the Benin, the Esusa blog, the African blogging station, and the African Defense Line, Africa in Focus. Africa in Focus. Sorry for me standing up. Uh, just want to close the door so that the noise is not going out of this room. Yeah, Africa in refocus because we have a lot going on in Africa today, and I want to use this medium and the opportunity to talk to our people, to talk to our leaders, to appeal to them, to listen very carefully, because let those who have ears, let them hear. Let those who have brain, let them use their brain. And those who have eyes, let them see clearly, because the sign is boldly written on the wall today that we as an African, especially the West African nations, which belongs to the ECOWAS, that we are having a very, very big problem. And this problem is so deep that it can destabilize all the region of West Africa. Uh, you see, people doesn't really understand, especially we Africans. We go to social media to talk jargons, to talk things that are not really relevant, that are not relevant in the sense, uh, because I have in the sense because people doesn't really uh, understand what is going on and what is taking place in Africa right now. People are just saying African is separating himself from France and the Western world. Yeah, that is true. But what is not true is, are they really doing that? You see, when we are separated from France and at the same time going into alliance with Russia, uh, not just Russia, this Wagner group, these private armies that are now in control of the armies of some of the West Africa countries. Countries like Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. Uh, and some, let me say, Sudan is also part of this. Uganda, for example, also have a full backup from this Wagner group. For Africa, at this moment, it's going to be very, very difficult for Africa, especially West Africa, because this Wagner group, I think people doesn't really understand what they stand for. This Wagner group, in connection with Russia, stand for destruction, total destruction, and total submission. I don't think these leaders of these countries, these military leaders of this country, can even stand when it comes to a confrontation the Wagner group that is presently supporting them. Yes, everybody is now happy that we have a little bit been successful taking France, taking these people away from Africa. But are we really doing that? Are we doing that? Are we not jumping into another second slavery? When we are moving from Europe, from France, from America, we are now jumping into another slavery, which is the slavery of the Russians and the Chinese. You see, the problem, what people doesn't understand, they don't go deeper to find out what all these things stand for. I went back to Chechnya, you know, to Chechnya to see what really happened, what exactly happened. You know, Chechnya was a little bit, we're having some confrontation in their country, and the Russians come in to support one of this group. And today we can see the capital of Chechnya, Grozny, what happened? What happened to Grozny? What happened in Chechnya? I think Africans should go back there and see, or even go to Google, or go to any social media, go to anywhere where you can find out what happened to Grozny when the Russians were finished. Then you go to Afghanistan. You know, Afghanistan was occupied by the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, which gave back to Russia. You can see what happened to Afghanistan before the American marched in. Afghanistan was recovering from what Russia did to them when the Americans moved in. This paved way for the Americans to move into Afghanistan. And we saw the total destruction, complete destruction of what happened to Afghanistan. You see, then I moved from there. I moved to Syria. You see, I moved to Syria because people should also go there, to go and see what happened in Syria. The Russian army and the Wagner group were supporting the president of Syria, Assad. And today, if you go to Syria, then you will see that it's a total destruction that took place in Aleppo, in Idlib, in all this region, you know, not to talk the loss of human lives that took place in those places. I think Africans should be very, very careful when doing things in this form, because this is going to be very, very painful. Your best friend now is going to turn to be your worst enemy in the future, because I can really see this, the agreement that are being signed and all these sort of things. And some of our educated allies who are moving with this troop, through this troop of African leaders, talking to Russia, visiting Russia, you people are so weak. You people are so weak that you cannot even open your eye to see what you are doing. What you are doing to your people in the future, or what you are going to be doing to your people in the future. Yeah, you can take off the light if you want to take up the light, but it's not my business. I'm not interested in that. But I'm going to say what I'm going to say. You see, you people are so blind, especially the president of South Africa, the president of Uganda, Savini, and some other African countries who went to this place, you know. You see, before the beginning of the war in Ukraine, Russia was not in one step an African friend. And then immediately the war began in Ukraine, we saw the activities of the Russians in our continent, how they were moving in, moving out, bringing in troops, bringing out troops, trying to establish so many physical bases that we are seeing, and the non-physical bases that we are not seeing is already there for a very long time. You see, people just think Russia is helping Africa. In the real sense, Russia is not helping Africa. Russia is destabilizing Africa in the way they can, because they understand if they destabilize Africa, the Westerners will not be able to come in to their own income, which they earn from Africa. And Russia is almost interested in the run from the uranium from Chad, from all these places that are now in their possession. I would not say those leaders who are standing up as a military officer there, that they are really the leaders of those countries. But Russia has total control of all those places. That is the fact. And we should understand, I'm talking to Nigeria as a whole. Nigeria should try as much as possible to build up the military in the border, because this group are a threat to the nation called Nigeria. Not just Nigeria, but the entire region, because they know Nigeria is the strongest among this country, and they are going to face Nigeria first. They are going to destabilize Nigeria through the neighbors and all that. But if we stand firm and be very, very intelligent in what we are doing, I don't believe they can be able to do that or succeed in doing that. But it depends on how we play our card that we are going to succeed in pushing them back. You see, it was just the idea of the military junta in Mali or in Niger or in Burkina Faso to come together. There are people behind all these things. There are people behind all these things, all this overthrow. It's not just because of the economic hardship that is leading to all this problem that we are facing. The problem that we are facing today is led by foreign powers has been using Africa as a battleground for over 500 years now. See, people will say Russia helped us to fight for independence, they support us, they give us arms to do that, to do this. My question still remains the same. Where were Russia for 300 years when we were slaves? Where were Russia for 500 years when these people were killing us like fowl? Where were Russia? They closed their eyes not to be seen what. It's only when it comes to the interests of Russia that Russia will support. If not going against the interests of Russia, Russia will close their eye. Let me take Libya for example, because many people only know the half-truth about Libya. What the Wagner group did in Russia, in Libya, pardon, in Tripoli, for example, those cities very close to Tripoli, the Wagner group be having snipers, who were mostly concentrated in taking out African people who went to support Gaddafi. They were responsible for taking these people out, and they were responsible for passing information to the NATO where the Gaddafi troops were and their movement and everything. And to say the fact, the Wagner group killed nothing less than 2,000 Libyans and African supporters who came to support Gaddafi. Even as we are talking now, the activities of Wagner group in Libya you can still see the presence. Yeah, the France, the British, the Germans, and the Western world was very, very brutal to us, and they are still brutal now. And the meaning of all these things now, we need to evaluate it. We have to evaluate it because there's a power vacuum right now that needs to be filled. ECOWAS cannot fill this vacuum, and the Wagner group are already using their influence in filling all this vacuum that is left behind. And I believe if we play our card very well, that the ECOWAS and the OAU can be able to fill this vacuum if we play our card very well and go to the negotiating table with all these military juntas, especially these three. Go to the negotiating table with them, talk with them, explain things to them, allow them to know the consequence of their doing, not just for themselves, but for their people. Because their people are going to be suffering this. Because these leaders can escape at any time to other countries, to other parts of the world, but their citizens cannot easily do that. Everybody needs to allow them to understand why it's very, very important that people like these juntas, because they don't think far enough to know the consequence of what they are doing. For example, Niger is one of the poorest countries in the world. It's one of the poorest countries in the world. You can't hide that from anybody. And now they are going to be getting poorer if Nigeria fully close their border, and all other ECOWAS countries that surrounded them close their border. Algeria can come from where they want to come from. They cannot really help Niger because Algeria themselves, they are also involved in confrontation with other militaries, like Morocco, like the Sahara group and all that. You see, Africa has a lot they have to be fighting eternally right now, and we need to stand up and start thinking of how to fix this problem, because everything is being blamed on our leaders. Why are we not blaming ourselves for not doing? for not taking active part in our government. Because all I have been saying is complain and complain and complain, and we go and sit there at home. But today, every young Africans have the opportunity to be very, very active in the politics and to decide what happened in their country. Like Nigeria today, when people are saying the government that is in power now are illegitimate and all that, I would say no. The government is legitimate because he was sworn in according to the constitution, and there's no other country that can come to Nigeria and say your government is illegitimate and that it doesn't have anything to say. He was fully confirmed. If the court comes out tomorrow to say otherwise, then we can say it's not legitimate. It's not legitimate to be the president of this country. Okay. It's like my audio is a little bit not okay, but let me see if I can be able to. You see, it's very, very important that the young Africans, they start learning from mistakes. It's not just the old people who made these mistakes. We have these mistakes, because we are so naive to be thinking that the Western world or the Russians are our friends or the Chinese are our friend, that they can be doing everything for us. I think Nigeria is picking up in this form very, very fast to think, oh, these people doesn't stand for us. Because what I am seeing today in Niger and in Burkina Faso and in Mali, you can see how these people are carrying the flag of Russia as if they are carrying Jesus or Muhammad. You can see how they are carrying the posters of Putin as if they are carrying the poster of Jesus and Muhammad. So we have to be talking to our people, educating our people about what is really going on in the world, because this is very, very dangerous as we may be thinking. And for such people, and especially when you go to social media like TikTok, to Facebook and all this social media, you see how our people talk and talk. They talk nonsense. They talk nonsense. Only 1 out of 100 that can really explain what is going on right now in Africa. I think Professor Mulumba had already recognized that this is a very, very big failure from our part for not educating our people to the standard. I can understand that we have been under slavery for a very, very long time, for under suppression and all that our children, we learn from our father how to obey and not to disobey those oppressors. But we have a new set of generation right now who are supposed to be picking up and be coming up to educate our people about how not to be a slave, how to take care of yourself, and how to take care of responsibility of your people. Because this is what the white man, they are doing. They take responsibility for themselves and take responsibility for their people. Because this is what moved them to Africa. Because they want their people to live a perfect life. You see? And when we are jubilating today in Niger and in Mali and Cote d'Ivoire or whatever it is, we must be very, very careful, because we are selling our souls. We are reselling our souls to the most dangerous evil that has ever existed. People doesn't know that. Putin is one of them. Likewise, the American president, because they have been dealing with the world as if the world is their pocket. We have to be very, very careful when we are doing all these things. I understand why the president of Nigeria, Ahmed Tinubu, come out to say that we are giving them 1 week Otherwise, we use force. I will not sanction that we use force, because we can only encourage. We should encourage these leaders that they should be very, very careful in everything they are doing. That they are not just there for themselves. They are there for their people. They are there for their people. And every step they take, they should take it as they are sacrificing their lives for their people. It's not just coming out with entourage and people are praising you, because we know this can easily and very quickly turn into another catastrophe for these countries, because there's nobody who will keep quiet and be looking at all these things they are doing, because Niger, you need food, you need so many things, you need equipment. Although Russia may provide you with military equipment, but will they continue to be feeding you? Nigeria has been trying its best possible to make sure that Niger doesn't collapse. That's why it's very, very painful for Nigeria, because they invested a lot in Niger to make sure Niger remain a standard country. That the UN must not be coming in to be feeding the people there. Nigeria gives you people more access than the whole world can give it to you. In Mali, the same. So you cannot pay Nigeria back with all this nonsense you are saying in television, because Nigeria have been investing in Africa countries, to say the fact, and Nigeria must be respected for that. You see, we as a nature in Africa, we doesn't know what is called democracy, nor military junta, nor dictatorship. We Africans, we were being ruled by monarchies, like kings, sometimes warlords, sometimes elders of the communities. All this system, democratic system, dictatorship, and all this system are very, very new to Africa. And this, the nature always revise things. Sometimes they revise, because if you block a river, the way not to flow, if you give him another way, one day he will find his way back. And this is what is going to be taking place in Africa right now. You see, France might be moving away from Africa. America might be moving away from Africa, but that hasn't defined the international stage, because these people, they still have the international stage. And Russia will not go against its own interests to help Africa. This must be very, very clear to everyone. Chinese will not go against his interest to help any African country. This must be very, very clear to everybody. And I want people to understand, if Russia is destabilized tomorrow, and which could happen, then Africa is going to be in mess. That is the reason I have been calling on Africa, for Africa to stand on its own. Even though you have $1 in your pocket, stand on your own. Continue to work hard for that $1 to make it $2, or to make it one African currency. We can call it Afro, we can call it anything we want to. If we have that, and we continue to work on that, I believe we are going to be moving forward. But you see, when we say we remove France from international stage, and we have almost 500,000 people from Niger living in France, some of them legally, some of them illegally, I believe there's also much coming to Niger, because France will not take this lightly. Not just only France, but all the European countries, because they are going to be selective, and they are going to be doing that, returning people to Niger, returning people to Mali, and other sort of things, because they are not going to be allowing people again to who doesn't, even though you have papers, because these things are going to be happening very, very soon. because they are going to step up their effort in doing all these things, creating chaos in Africa to make sure we are so destabilized that we will go back to them and start begging. Because we should not look at Russia as a stable country as of this moment because of things that is going in internally there. There's a lot going on. And we, the African leaders, if we really want to unite, we are not even having conferences. We are not having places where we meet to discuss, apart from all these OAUs and all that. You see, we need to put more in places when we are talking. When I listen to the president of South Africa, yeah, you have some good ways, likewise the president of Kenya. But in your own country, Kenya, we can see that there's also a sign that this country may overturn very, very soon if care is not taken. Likewise in South Africa, because we can see in South Africa, the whole West, the country who has the most billionaires in Africa are in South Africa. And these billionaires, they are not blacks. All of them are white. You can see this problem we are facing. Because these billionaires, all of them are white. And in Kenya, we can see the opposition party growing up and growing fast and aggressive and prepared to do something you people will not expect. You see, before we start doing anything in Africa, we have to stabilize Africa. Because without stable governments, Africa is going nowhere. Africa is going nowhere, and then we are going to be revising back to go and start begging the Westerners. We said it's not. That's why it's very, very important right now. We look very well. We look and look very well to see where we can stand as one nation. Because propagating one nation without concept, it won't function. Because bringing 54 people, let me just say people, in the same table to agree on certain issues is very, very difficult. And to apply those measures that was agreed upon is also very, very difficult. And to use and to put everything in form is very, very difficult because everybody will have his own say and we have his own system of implementing all this. That's why it's very, very important we come together as one nation, if we want to come together as one nation, because I can see that the northern part of Africa has a little bit separated themselves from the black nations of Africa. And I believe we can do that without even the help of any other nations from the west or from the east. And we should start at the same time trying to bring in our people who are outside Africa, the countries like Barbados, like Jamaica, like Haiti. Then we have Brazil, who have almost half of this population blacks. We have all these countries. We have to be bringing it closer to us because these are people who can really help us in a way. Because everywhere you go today where black reside, then you see hardship. You see hardship that is not ending. So let me close for today, but I'm still going to be coming back to start discussing about all these issues. So thank you for joining me on the. I'm sorry for the audio. That the audio doesn't have a good quality as it's supposed to be having, but thank you for joining me, and I appreciate everyone that we like and subscribe, and at the same time share my video or subscribe to my Facebook pages, then YouTube, then you also have TikTok. If you can subscribe, we'll be very, very grateful. So thank you, and God bless everyone. Bye-bye.